Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Director of Elections, I want to warmly welcome you all to the launch of the Democratic Unionist Party's 2023 Local Government Manifesto. It's great to see so many of our candidates with us this morning from right across Northern Ireland, some who have served in councils and bring with them a wealth of experience and record of delivery, and some new candidates who will be appearing on the ballot paper for the first time. Unfortunately, as you will be aware, many of our Belfast candidates are unable to be with us this morning due to bereavement, and those affected continue to be in our prayers. We also want to express our condolences to Alan Graham on the passing of his son, and I'm sure you will all join with me in sending our thoughts and prayers to Alan and his family. But it is good to see so many of our candidates here and so many of our MLAs as well. In particular, we want to welcome Keith Buchanan today. It's Keith's 50th birthday today, so happy birthday, Keith. But I've been told by candidates in Mid-Ulster you're not allowed to take today off and you have to go straight back canvassing once we're done here. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your work so far during the campaign, but especially over the last council term. You know, you don't have to be out on the doors too long before you pick up on some common themes. And it's clear from the doorsteps that voters recognise the achievements and delivery of our DUP representatives. Take play parks as an example. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to succeed. And 4 years ago, we promised more council facilities for disabled children, and we delivered. That's investing in all of our children and laying a foundation for the future. 4 years ago, only 10% of playgrounds were equipped for children with disabilities. Today, however, in every council area, there has been a step change, and that's DUP delivery. Or consider rural broadband. Rural communities are now getting online because of the DUP. The DUP designed a scheme and secured funding, and now rural businesses can get online. Children are able to connect with friends, and our elderly can speak to family across the world. So far, 90% of homes are connected, and Northern Ireland leads the way, well in front of England, Scotland, Wales, and the Republic of Ireland. That's DUP delivery. That's what we are in the business of doing. And we are ambitious for this next council term, and our manifesto sets out how we will deliver in councils right across Northern Ireland. But there is another common theme that has been coming up as we've been going around the doors right across Northern Ireland. People that we speak to are fed up of the infighting and division among unionists. They know that split unionism means lost seats and less influence. And now, more than ever, that is disastrous for unionism. And a vote for the DUP on the 18th of May will strengthen our hand as we seek to finish the job of restoring Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. And so I'm delighted to introduce our party leader, Sir Jeffrey Donaldson MP, who will speak to us now and then take a few questions from the media. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Jeffrey Donaldson.
Good morning, colleagues and members of the media. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm delighted to see so many of our candidates with us today. I've been out campaigning around Northern Ireland. I think I've now been to 9 or 10 out of the 11 councils, with a few more visits still to undertake. But I've been greatly heartened by the response we've been receiving right across Northern Ireland. It's been absolutely consistent everywhere I've gone and the people I've talked to. Not only is the DUP holding up well, but the DUP is advancing, and I want to thank all of you for the part that you're playing in our campaign. In just 7 days' time, Northern Ireland will go to the polls to elect local councillors to our 11 district councils. And make no mistake, this election is not only important because it will set the direction of our councils over the next 4 years, but its outcome is also being closely monitored and watched both nationally and internationally. The work of our local government councillors in Northern Ireland is important, even if sometimes it does not receive the spotlight it deserves. I'm pleased that we are fielding 152 candidates from all walks of life, with a vibrant mix of skills, youth, and experience. Today, we are publishing our positive plan for local government in Northern Ireland. We want to take forward that plan over the next 4 years. It sets out real action to deliver at the lowest cost on issues that matter to the everyday lives of everyone in Northern Ireland. Our manifesto is a blueprint for the future and is the basis upon which all our DUP candidates are standing at this election. At its heart, we have a very clear vision for Northern Ireland. The DUP is in the business of laying solid foundations for Northern Ireland so that our children and grandchildren can succeed. We know that Northern Ireland is a great place and that its people have even greater potential. Our goal for every council is to deliver the best services at the lowest possible cost to ratepayers. The Democratic Unionist Party has always championed the cutting of wasteful spending and keeping the rates burden to a minimum for hard-pressed ratepayers. That means focusing on what matters rather than political pet projects. Too often, some parties in councils would prefer to focus on the issues over which they have no power and which don't impact on our day-to-day lives. And they do so at the expense of the core council functions, which the public rightly expect to be delivered efficiently and at the lowest possible cost. Our 5-point promise to the people of Northern Ireland is that we will use our mandate, the mandate given to us by the people. Firstly, to seek to re-establish the Northern Ireland Assembly on a fair and sustainable basis by finishing the job of protecting Northern Ireland's place in the United Kingdom and its internal market. Secondly, we will work within councils to protect and deliver core services at real value and at the lowest cost to the ratepayer. Thirdly, we will build stronger and safer communities by targeting council spending on what really matters to local ratepayers. Fourthly, we will promote and deliver regeneration for our villages, towns, and city centres. And finally, in this our King's coronation year, We will cooperate and work with other unionists to strengthen our rich heritage and culture right across Northern Ireland. We've been taking our message to doorsteps in every village, town and city across Northern Ireland. Last year, at the launch of our Assembly Election Manifesto, I stated that I make no apology for saying that I want to see unionists working together in a spirit of cooperation and with common purpose. And I repeat that today. This party stands for the unity of unionism and for cooperation with our fellow unionists. Now is not the time for more division. And throughout our engagement on the doors in this campaign, it is clear that those who support the union want to see a unity of purpose amongst their elected representatives. The transfer of votes will matter, and we know this from the Assembly elections. And the decisions taken next Thursday will help to shape the direction of Northern Ireland over the next few years. The last election, the Assembly election, must act as a wake-up call for all unionists. Divided votes hands seats to the opponents of the union. Full stop. Some said after the Assembly elections that we would weaken our position. It was a lie then, and it is a lie now. Those who seek to steal votes from the DUP and divide unionism on the basis of that lie serve no purpose in what we're all trying to achieve, which is the restoration of Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom and our ability to trade with the rest of the United Kingdom. Let me be clear. We are pledged to continue to stand firm after this election until we have properly secured and protected our place within the United Kingdom. The truth that many political representatives don't want to hear is that the protocol upset the delicate political balance in Northern Ireland and was not supported and is not supported by the unionist community. Our judgment and our principled position in opposing the protocol in Parliament and at Stormont has been vindicated. When others said there would be no renegotiation and no change, our determination has proven what can be achieved. The outcome of the recent negotiations between the United Kingdom and the European Union resulted in the Windsor Framework. And whilst this undoubtedly represents significant progress across a number of areas, it does not deal with some of the fundamental problems at the heart of our current difficulties. The Democratic Unionist Party, whilst welcoming that progress, has carefully assessed the Windsor Framework and taken time to consult the wider public and business through the establishment of a consultation panel so that we could hear the views of a wide range of stakeholders across Northern Ireland. Unlike others who don't want to listen, we do listen. We do talk to the people. We do engage with business, and we act upon their concerns. Having received the report from our panel and assessed all elements of the Windsor Framework, we have concluded that the framework does not meet our 7 tests, as set out in our Assembly Election Manifesto in 2022. Consequently, more work is required by the UK government if we are to secure the necessary conditions for a return of the Northern Ireland Executive. At this election, we are seeking support for our principled stand to finish the job and to build the necessary solid foundations for a return of accountable government at Stormont. We want to see the restoration of the Assembly and the Executive on the basis that democratic decision-making is in the hands of locally elected representatives, rather than them having no say over some of the laws governing our economy and our people. Following our assessment of the Windsor Framework, we have identified a series of key areas of concern. The fact that the proposals do not in themselves adequately remedy the harm done by the protocol to Article 6 of the Acts of Union and our ability to trade with the rest of the United Kingdom. And this remains a major concern for us, as I pointed out yesterday in the House of Commons. The UK government gave a commitment in the New Decade, New Approach Agreement to protect Northern Ireland's place in the UK internal market. And this remains unfinished business. And it's time for the government to deliver on their promises and their commitments. Notwithstanding the proposal to remove certain barriers to trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland under the framework, we will want to see further work in this area, consistent with the commitment by the government in New Decade, New Approach that protects our place in the internal market of the United Kingdom and our economic rights under Article 6 of the Acts of Union. As I informed the Minister of State yesterday in the House of Commons, our ability to trade with the rest of the United Kingdom is not a privilege. It is a right enshrined in the Acts of Union, and we demand that that right is protected in law. The implications of the continued application of EU law without consent in Northern Ireland under the Windsor Framework needs to be considered. Why should those Northern Ireland businesses that do not trade with the EU and only trade within the United Kingdom be required to follow EU laws? This area will need further exploration and resolution by the government. Greater flexibility is needed in the operation of the proposed green and red lanes to ensure that goods moving within the UK internal market can flow more freely. And on the proposed Stormont break, we must be clear that any mechanism exercised by 30 MLAs is effective in law and will enable locally elected representatives of the people of Northern Ireland to determine whether amended or new laws are vetoed by the UK government. We are continuing to campaign to secure further advancements in all these areas, doing so in the knowledge that what has already been achieved was because we were not prepared to accept the undermining of Northern Ireland's place within the Union, and we will not accept it. For our part, we are pledged to do everything possible to prevent a situation where Northern Ireland diverges from its most important market, that being the rest of the United Kingdom. We want to see a return to the delicate political balance within Northern Ireland, where the views of unionists are valued and respected, as well as everyone else's views and perspectives. And the cross-community consensus is the way that we deliver stability and prosperity for all our people. As Northern Ireland's largest unionist party, we have the ultimate responsibility of ensuring we get this right, that the outcome respects Northern Ireland's place in the Union for the long term. I'm not interested in a sticking plaster or a quick fix. We need to get this right. The Democratic Unionist Party and its candidates are pledged to put Northern Ireland first. On the 18th of May, Unionists have a clear choice. They can back the DUP and our candidates and strengthen our position as we seek to finish the job of restoring Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. Or unionism can divide and splinter, costing seats and influence in our councils, and crucially, helping to hand seats and influence to those who would further weaken the union. From travelling throughout Northern Ireland, I know that our support is building. People recognise what is at stake. So let us use the next 7 days to finish the job so we can deliver on our pledges for everyone in Northern Ireland. Next Thursday, if you want Northern Ireland to move forward together, where everyone is respected, then use your vote to strengthen our hand and ensure that unionism speaks with a strong and united voice. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I'm now happy to take questions from the media. I think UTV are first.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Jeffrey.
Good morning.
Your manifesto, your first and utmost pledge is about the Northern Ireland Assembly. Much of your speech has focused on the future of Stormont and your stance there. Is this election about councils, or is it about voters coming out to give you a message on your stance at Stormont? And if your vote goes down, if you lose seats, does that mean that you will go back to Stormont?
Well, this election is about both, and I've outlined our approach in local government, and that is a key part of our manifesto launch today. But it is also about supporting our stance and giving us the strength to finish the job. And that's what I'm looking for. And as I go around the country, I am confident that our support is building, and I'm looking to a strong turnout and for a good result for the Democratic Unionist Party, because as I have said, that will strengthen our hand in obtaining and securing from the government what we need to ensure that Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom is fully and properly restored, and then we can get Stormont back up and running. If we have a poor election result, well, as I've said, the consequences of splits and divisions in unionism are there. And I think, actually, my experience on the doorsteps out and across Northern Ireland is that people get that. They understand that. And this time they're coming out in unity to support the DUP to finish the job.
Good morning, Mr. Jeffrey. Emma McClattery from the BBC. Have you come across any DUP voters who have said to you that they're very worried about the crippling budget cuts coming down the line, and they feel now is the time for your party to end its boycott and deal with the aftermath of these cuts coming down the track? And if you have heard those voices, what have you said to them?
Well, Enda, those are my concerns. And they were articulated yesterday in the House of Commons very ably by our parliamentary team, who spelled out clearly that we believe what the government is doing in cutting the budget is unacceptable. But let's be clear. If Stormont were restored tomorrow, it would not solve the problem. The problem is in the Treasury. The problem is the Barnett formula. The problem is that our budget in Northern Ireland is not based on need. And as Gavin Robinson has pointed out consistently, that's why we need to find a new formula that is a needs-based formula that addresses the needs of the people of Northern Ireland properly. And that won't change simply because Stormont is restored. That needs to change in terms of the policy adopted by the Treasury. So what I am doing, what my colleagues are doing, is pressing the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland and the Treasury to change the policy and the formula on how Northern Ireland is funded, so that when the executive is restored, it will have a budget that can deliver efficient, effective public services, that can invest to reform our public services to make them even better for the people of Northern Ireland. That's what we're aiming to achieve. But we must have strong foundations. The idea that returning to Stormont without those solid foundations will deliver what the people of Northern Ireland need is a fallacy. We need the foundation strengthened, and part of that is changing the funding formula so that we have a budget that reflects the needs of Northern Ireland, and we don't have that at the moment.
Mr. Jeffrey, Amanda Ferguson from Reuters News Agency. In the House of Commons, Secretary of State Christine Harris had indicated that he's happy to continue conversations with the DUP and maybe around reassurances about Northern Ireland's place in the UK. The Good Friday Agreement is very clear that Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom unless people would vote for something different. So what specifically is it that the DUP is asking for? And should people be concerned that the DUP wants amendments to the Northern Ireland Act from 1998?
I don't think people should be concerned that what we want to do is to stabilise and restore Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. The Belfast Agreement to which you refer is very clear that Northern Ireland remains an integral part of the United Kingdom. But the Northern Ireland Protocol disrupted and undermined our place in the United Kingdom. And that's now accepted by the UK government, who have stated very clearly they recognise the harm the protocol has done. In my view, as I've outlined this morning, the Windsor Framework does not go far enough in securing our place within the United Kingdom. And we have made clear to the government what we need them to do is to deliver on what they've previously committed to do. I'm not asking for something new. Our 7 tests were based on commitments already made by the UK government. And at the heart of those 7 tests is a clear legal protection for our place in the United Kingdom and our ability to trade within the kingdom. Article 6 of the Acts of Union provides that the people of Northern Ireland can trade freely and without barriers to trade with the rest of the UK. Why is this important? And these are the statistics taken from the Northern Ireland Research and Statistics Agency's report. Each year in Northern Ireland, we currently produce £77 billion worth of goods. Of those 77 billion, 65 billion are sold in the United Kingdom. 7 billion are sold to the EU. Maths was not my best subject at school, but even I can work out that the biggest market for Northern Ireland is the United Kingdom by a country mile, and that when our ability to trade with the rest of the UK is harmed and impeded by an Irish Sea border, that harms our place in the United Kingdom. It undermines our economy. It undermines our ability to access our biggest market. And what I'm asking the government to do is to deliver what they committed to in New Decade, New Approach at the beginning of 2020. And that is to restore Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom, its internal market, and our ability to trade. That's what I'm asking for. That's what I need the government to deliver. John. I did answer your question. I think I answered it very fully. Amanda, and the government, in fact, more fully than any of the other questions I've been asked so far. And the government have said that they are going to bring forward legislation. Let's see what that legislation says.
Okay, Jeffrey, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Just picking up where Amanda left off, could you tell us specifically what that legislation should contain to satisfy you? And also, just that you say you're looking for flexibility on green lanes and the red lanes, etc. Is that an acknowledgement that the Northern Ireland Protocol, albeit a revised version, is here to stay?
It's not an acknowledgement of any of that, John. It is fundamentally about our ability to trade with the rest of the United Kingdom. Look, I have never said that I want to put barriers in the way of the ability of Northern Ireland businesses to trade with the EU. But equally, I will not accept barriers being put in the place of our ability to trade with our biggest market, the United Kingdom. And that's what I want to have resolved. What I'm looking for in legislation is what I have stated this morning. I want to see in law our ability to trade with the rest of the United Kingdom, our rights under Article 6 of the Acts of Union, properly protected in law. That's what I'm looking for. That's what the government promised to deliver in New Decade, New Approach. My message to them simply is get on with it. And the sooner that legislation is delivered, the sooner we can get things back to a more stable and firm foundation at Stormont.
Here for some reason, but I wanted to ask you. I
You never grab the microphone out of my hand. Brandon, take your seat. Take your seat. You never grab the microphone. Take your seat.
Because you weren't going to give me a question.
Take your seat.
Brendan, you will get a question. I promise you. You'll get a question. You'll get a question.
Liam Tunney, Belfast Telegraph. You're very strong on unionist unity there within the speech, and the prospect of those who would weaken the union having an opportunity as a result of that. Sinn Féin will have designs on becoming the largest party in local government. Is that a major concern to the DUP in this election particularly?
Well, look, of course, we enter every election and we want to win. All political parties do. And I hope that unionism, and I believe unionism has learned the lesson of the Assembly elections, that a divided and splintered unionist vote does not benefit our case and does not benefit our ability to deliver a stronger union. And therefore, if people want to see unionism progressing, they want to see the union maintained, then I believe it's right that unionists unite behind the clear stance that the DUP has taken, and that's what we're calling for. And we want to secure victory for the union in this election. That's what we're out to achieve. That's what we want to achieve in every election.
All right, Brandon, here's your question.
Thank you. Just to clarify, whenever I asked John Robinson if I was given a question, he said that because I have not responded to an email, he wasn't going to give me a question. So apologies for the mix-up in relation to it.
Right.
No,
So you
that's-
get a question at the end.
No, that's not what you said.
You want a question or not?
I would like a question if that's all right.
Of course, Brendan.
Hurry up and ask it then.
Brendan, I have always taken questions from you.
That's one. Okay. Well, I'll hold you to that, Sir Jeffrey. Well, this is a council election, so I want to ask about some of your candidates. Ian McLaughlin is standing in the court DA. He was involved in the West Belfast UPRG, which is a UDA-linked group. There also had been a West Belfast UPRG Twitter account, which disappeared around the time that he was announced as a candidate, and some people have raised concerns about offensive and trolling messages which were posted on that account. So I was wondering if you could clarify, is Mr. McLaughlin still involved in the UPRG? What's your response to concerns over standing a candidate involved in a group linked to the UDA? And was Mr. McLaughlin involved in this UPRG Twitter account? And then secondly, in relation to candidates, you have one candidate who retweeted a comment saying that diversity is not always a strength, as it could mean fewer white people. You have one candidate in Carrickfergus who raised concerns about a hotel housing asylum seekers and questioned whether that would lead to an increase in crime. And you also have in Mid and East Antrim Council DUP representatives opposing UK government funding to assist asylum seekers. So does the DUP have a problem with immigrants and asylum seekers?
Well, first of all, on the first part of your question, all of our candidates go through a selection process. Ian is a member of the DUP and has been a member of the DUP for some time, is not a member of any other political organisation. I have no knowledge of Ian's involvement in any Twitter account. And Ian, I believe, in his area is getting good support. And we have candidates that reflect, represent and work for the communities they come from. And that is the case for all of our candidates. And look, in terms of what people say on Twitter, we all at times, I think, maybe do and say things that we later regret. And we are very clear that in all of our dealings, we should always be respectful to others. That we are very strong in our own views, and we also ask that people respect our views as well. And I am bound to say that if you want examples of trolling on Twitter, if you want examples of harassment on Twitter, it would be really nice from time to time to see Belfast Live highlight what our candidates are putting up with. And I know you have on some occasions. And in fairness to you, I know you have on some occasions, but it's a lot more widespread than it gets reported, even to the point where one of our candidates has been told his life is at risk if he canvasses in part of his DEA. That is unacceptable behaviour, utterly unacceptable. And I will not tolerate that kind of situation. There are no no-go areas in Northern Ireland in electoral terms, and that applies to everybody. All candidates should have the ability to canvass freely, to put their perspective across, whether on social media or on the doorsteps in Northern Ireland. That's the kind of society that we want. In terms of immigration, again, where people are refugees in this country, where they've entered this country lawfully, or where they are awaiting a decision on asylum, then of course people should treat them with respect. But we do have issues, I have to say, in terms of an open border policy and people entering this country illegally. And we do believe that measures are required to address this problem. We don't think that what the government are proposing at the moment is workable. That's why we've opposed the government's illegal migration bill in the House of Commons for very good reason. But that does not mean we don't want to see proper measures taken to control our borders, to ensure that the people traffickers, the criminal gangs, the people bringing drugs into this country, that they do not have free access into our jurisdiction. So there is a balance to be struck. I have, at the weekend, I met some of the Ukrainian refugees in my own constituency who are staying with families. They are more than welcome. We have other people staying in Northern Ireland who have fled very difficult, violent, terrifying situations. We will always provide a safe haven for those who are genuinely fleeing conflict and war and who are looking for a place of safety. But we can't, at the same time, sit back whilst criminal gangs, human traffickers, and others exploit weaknesses in our immigration system. And that's why it needs to be tightened up, but in an ethical and fair and balanced way.
Okay, folks, that ends all our questions. Everybody has a little card on their seat. And we want to try, and journalists